The Minnesota Vikings let its starting quarterback walk, and 11 months later, he was a Super Bowl champion. Sam Darnold and Seattle beat New England 29-13 in Super Bowl 60, and the Seahawks became the first champion to go through an entire postseason without committing a single turnover. The Vikings watched that game from home after finishing 9-8, and they had already fired the general manager who built their roster 9 days before kickoff. That is the backdrop for everything you are about to hear. And there is a rookie in Egan right now who did not take one practice rep this spring, who is already working with the starting defense. The response was not a teardown. Right tackle Brian O'Neill signed a 4-year extension worth $96 million that keeps him in purple through 2030. Receiver Jowan Jennings arrived from San Francisco after a career-high 9 touchdown season. And Minnesota added a former number 1 overall pick at quarterback in Kyler Murray, who is costing this team $1.3 million this year because a franchise he no longer plays for is paying him $36.8 million to play somewhere else. How that happened matters more than the signing itself. The defense is the part nobody argues about. Minnesota finished 3rd in total defense and 2nd against the pass, and Brian Flores signed an extension in January to run it for a 4th season. But the Vikings traded their Pro Bowl edge rusher during the draft, released both defensive tackles they paid for last spring, and still do not know whether their franchise safety is playing football this fall. They open the season against Green Bay and close it against the team that just won this division, and the entire year lives between those 2 games. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Vikings and all the NFL content. Can we get 250 likes on this video? Start with the record, because 9-8 is hiding 2 completely different football teams. Minnesota sat at 4-8 after a shutout loss in Seattle, which was the worst 12-game start this franchise had produced since 2013. Then they won 5 straight to close the year and finished a half game out of the playoff field. The defense allowed 282.6 yards per game, 3rd best in the NFL. The offense scored 20.2 points per game, which ranked 26th. Those 2 units played on the same field every Sunday. Now, here's the arithmetic that explains the drop better than anything else. In 2024, the Vikings forced 33 takeaways, finished at +12 in turnover margin, and won 14 games. In 2025, they forced 21 takeaways, finished at -9, and won 9. That is a 21-point swing in turnover margin and a 5-win drop, and the defensive personnel barely changed. Minnesota committed 30 turnovers on the season, the most of any team in the league. Give this exact roster league average ball security, and you are looking at a playoff team, which is why so many projection models still like the Vikings more than the public does. Let me be fair to the roster here, because the record lies in both directions. This offense finished 28th in total yards and 30th in passing yards per game, and the line surrendered 60 sacks, tied for the 2nd most in football. 4 different players threw a pass for this team. Minnesota also produced only 39 receptions of 20 or more yards, the 5th fewest in the NFL, 1 season after ranking 2nd in the league with 64 of them. When you hand a top 3 defense that combination of field position and short possessions, 9 wins is not an underachievement. It is closer to a rescue. Now the line, because Minnesota spent real money to fix it. Those 60 sacks were the loudest number on the offense, and the front office answered them in late July by extending Brian O'Neill with a $27.1 million signing bonus that dropped his cap charge for this season from $23.16 million to $14.74 million. He has started 120 of the 124 games he has played for this franchise. He is also now the longest tenured player on the roster, which tells you something about how much turnover this building has seen. The bigger variable is at left tackle. Christian Darrisaw tore multiple ligaments in his left knee in October of 2024 and never looked like himself last season, appearing in only 10 games and leaving 5 of them early. At training camp last week, he told reporters he feels the best he has felt in 2 years and head coach Kevin O'Connell said there are no physical concerns or limitations. Next to him, left guard Donovan Jackson was good enough as a rookie that ESPN's Bill Barnwell now values him at a first-round pick. Center is the open question after Ryan Kelly retired. The receiving group is where the numbers get uncomfortable. Justin Jefferson caught 84 passes for 1,048 yards and 2 touchdowns, which was still his 6th consecutive 1,000-yard season and also the worst year of his career. Here's the stat that explains it. Passes intended for Jefferson were intercepted 10 times, giving him a 5-to-1 interception to touchdown ratio. Jordan Addison managed 42 catches for 610 yards. Jawan Jennings signed for $8 million with $13 million available in incentives. Here's where this offseason gets genuinely strange, and no preview I have seen has framed it correctly. The Vikings fired general manager Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah on January 30th, less than a year after extending him. They did not replace him. Instead, ownership handed the entire offseason to Rob Brzezinski, the executive vice president who has worked in this building since 1999 as the salary cap analyst and contract negotiator, and told him to run free agency and the draft. He was never given the permanent job. What that caretaker front office actually did was aggressive. It released defensive linemen Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave on the first day of the league year, clearing more than $21 million. It traded Pro Bowl edge rusher Jonathan Greenard to Philadelphia during round 2 of the draft for a 3rd-round pick this year and another in 2027, saving over $34 million in cap space. Greenard immediately signed a 4-year deal worth $100 million with the Eagles. It also lowered Aaron Jones Sr.'s base salary and signed Murray. The permanent general manager did not arrive until May 30th, after free agency and after all 9 draft picks were in the building. Nolan Teasley came from Seattle, where he spent 13 seasons and rose to assistant general manager and co-owner. Mark Wilf praised his disciplined, process-driven approach to the job. Read that again. The Vikings let Darnold leave for Seattle, watched Seattle win a title, and then hired Seattle's assistant general manager to fix what was left behind, to the draft and to that rookie from the opening. Caleb Banks went at pick 18 out of Florida, a 6'6" interior lineman who did not participate in a single OTAs, session, or minicamp practice this spring because of a foot injury. He opened training camp with the second team. By the 3rd practice, he was working almost exclusively with the first team alongside Levi Drake Rodriguez and Jalen Redmond. That is the fastest possible answer to the only question anyone had about him. The rest of the class leaned hard into the front 7. Linebacker Jake Golday came off the board at pick 51 out of Cincinnati. Defensive tackle Dominique Orange followed at pick 82 out of Iowa State. And at 322 pounds, he gives Flores the true nose tackle this defense has been missing. Tackle Caleb Tiernan went at pick 97 out of Northwestern. Safety Jacoby Thomas landed at pick 98 out of Miami, and that selection was the pick Minnesota received in the Greenard trade. Day 3 addressed depth that has been thin for years. Fullback Max Bredesen went at pick 159, cornerback Charles Demings at pick 163 after running a 4.41 40-yard dash with 9 college interceptions, running back Demon Claiborne at pick 198, and center Gavin Gerhardt at pick 235. I want to be careful here because 5 of these 9 players landed inside the top 100, and that does not guarantee anything. Draft capital is an input. What this staff does with it is the actual test. Now the defense, because this is the reason to take Minnesota seriously at all. Flores inherited a unit that ranked 31st in 2022. Last season, it allowed 158.5 passing yards per game, the second fewest in football, and the fewest this franchise has allowed since 1989. It gave up 19.6 points per game, 7th in the league, collected 49 sacks, and surrendered touchdowns on only 42.9% of opponent red zone trips, the second lowest rate in the NFL. Over 3 seasons under Flores, Minnesota has allowed the fewest plays of 20 or more yards in the entire league. The returning core is younger than people assume. Dallas Turner led the team with 8 sacks in his second season and now slides into Greenard's full-time role. Andrew Van Ginkel produced 7 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, and 10 passes defended in only 12 games. Blake Cashman piled up 144 tackles in 13 games. And Eric Wilson, who almost nobody discusses, added 6.5 sacks and posted a pressure rate of 22.5%, the best mark by any defender with at least 150 pass rushes since 2022. Now the division, and this is where the schedule gets unfriendly fast. Chicago won the NFC North last season. Green Bay finished with 9 wins, 7 losses, and a tie, and enters this year without Micah Parsons for the opener, while he recovers from a torn knee ligament. Detroit remains the measuring stick in this division and visits US Bank Stadium in Week 15. Minnesota opens at home against the Packers on September 13th, its first home opener since 2023, then travels to Chicago in Week 2. The Vikings also play San Francisco and Mexico City in November, their 5th international game in 5 years. ESPN rates this the 11th hardest schedule in the league. The first 2 weeks will tell you almost everything. Which brings us to the quarterback, and to the contract that made all of this possible. Arizona released Kyler Murray on the first day of the league year while still owing him $36.8 million in guaranteed money. That allowed Minnesota to sign him on March 12th for the veteran minimum of $1.3 million, with a no-tag clause attached. Murray played only 5 games last season, completing 110 of 161 passes for 962 yards, with 6 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He turns 29 this month. The incumbent has a real case too. J.J. McCarthy went 6-4 in his first 10 career starts, which is more than most people remember, but he threw for only 1,632 yards with 11 touchdowns against 12 interceptions and completed 57.6% of his passes. He also dealt with a high ankle sprain, a concussion, and a broken hand in the same season after missing his entire rookie year following knee surgery. Let me be honest about that. We still do not have a clean sample of this player. Camp has not settled it either. On Friday, McCarthy took more team snaps than Murray for the first time, by a count of 32 snaps to 26. On Saturday, in front of fans for the first time, Murray took the majority of first team work and had the better day. Murray described his approach simply, saying, "Every year to me is a go out there and prove it year." Head coach Kevin O'Connell has said all off-season that this competition is real, and through 4 practices, there is no evidence he is bluffing. So what does this add up to? The over and under on Minnesota's win total sits at 8.5 games, and ESPN analyst Mike Clay projects 7.5. That is the market telling you it expects a 4th-place football team. But 3 of the final 4 games are at US Bank Stadium. 5 of the final 7 are at home, and this defense returns almost everyone that mattered, while adding 2 interior linemen inside the top 82 picks. Here's my prediction, and you are welcome to tell me I am wrong. Minnesota finishes 10-7, sneaks into the playoff field as a wild card, and Dallas Turner ends this season with more sacks than Jonathan Greenard posts in Philadelphia. The turnover margin regresses toward neutral on its own, and neutral is worth roughly 3 wins for a team that already fields a top 5 defense. That is not optimism. That is just the math correcting itself. Drop your win total in the comments, tell me which quarterback you would start on September 13th, and subscribe so the depth chart breakdown lands in your feed the day the 53-man roster gets set on August 30th. Because the real question is not whether Murray or McCarthy opens the season. It is whether the man who built this roster in 4 months and the man who has to live with it for 4 years actually agree on what this team is.